Hello there and welcome back to the Net Report. Chris here, and today I am here to discuss the James Harden situation and just how crazy it has become. We all know James Harden has been on the trade block for some time now after opting into his player option for this year, and now the 76ers a few days ago had announced that they will not be trading him due to not receiving any packages they felt were worth his value, and that he would remain on the team for the upcoming season. This situation of course took a turn for the worse, however, a couple days ago, which has led James Harden to now calling Daryl Morey a liar, saying he would not play for any team with Daryl Morey at the helm, and that he would not show up to training camp for the 76ers next season if still on the team.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of again. Thank you, man.
This all happened at a camp overseas in China where James Harden made these comments, which really shook the NBA media for a loop, and it has made the issue between Daryl Morey and James Harden and the 76ers so much more complex and difficult, where I am not sure there is a true win-win scenario for both sides. And to fully understand why Harden is so upset with Daryl Morey, we have to go back to last year. Last year, James Harden opted out of max money and signed a 1+1 player option deal where he would make $33 million in 2022 to 2023 and have a player option in 2023 to 2024. This was done to help the 76ers create cap room to help sign PJ Tucker and Danielle House to help better round out the team so they could finally make a deep playoff run and have the pieces to contend. The rumor surrounding this pay cut, which of course cannot be confirmed, is that Daryl Morey and James Harden had some sort of under-the-table agreement or wink-wink agreement where if he took that pay cut, he would in turn receive a larger long-term contract the following season to basically make up for taking that pay cut. But with Harden's play declining and him having a less than stellar playoff run, Daryl Morey got cold feet and backed out of the deal. The problem with these rumors is if they are true and have any sort of merit, that is illegal per the CBA. Teams are not allowed to have under-the-table talks that far in advance or agreements on taking pay cuts for future contract incentives. We have seen the NBA crack down on these early discussions with contracts, ironically with the 76ers and PJ Tucker and Danielle House, which caused them to lose their 2023 and 2024 second round picks. So this is a scenario where, once again, if these rumors are true to any extent, James Harden can't really prove this is the truth because it is of course illegal, and both Harden and Morey could get in huge trouble with the league if this were the case. That is part of the reason why many people believe Harden and Daryl Morey's relationship has fallen apart to this extent, along with Daryl Morey and the 76ers not wanting to trade him to the Clippers for a not-so-great package in return after Harden picked up his player option for this year. And it has just been a mess of a situation that has only gotten worse and worse over the offseason. And to be quite clear, this is a situation where I do not see either side's fully outright winning. Let's start with Harden first, whose main goal for a while now has been one last long-term max or close to max contract. Now that he is 33 and we have seen signs of decline, this may be his last big payday. He of course took the pay cut last season and has been looking for a long-term deal since then. There were of course rumors of him returning to Houston on a big contract since they had a lot of cap space as free agency, but that chatter quickly died once free agency started. So Harden opted into his player option with the hopes of getting traded specifically to the Clippers, where they could in turn give him a contract extension since they would attain his bird rights and let him re-sign to big money while still on a contender in the Clippers. That was the best case scenario for James Harden. However, now due to the poor playoff performance and his value just not being too high, the 76ers would rather hang on to him and play out this season than trade him to the Clippers for a less than stellar return. And unless the Clippers really blow the 76ers away with a trade package, it is looking like James Harden may remain on the 76ers. And with Harden stating that he will not play for the 76ers, he is sort of digging himself into a hole. His last season, while good, definitely showed signs of regression, and his play in the playoffs outside of games 1 and 4 versus Boston were not great. He averaged 15.1 points per game on 14.4 shots per game in those 9 games and was very inefficient from the field. When you combine someone like Harden, who is noticeably on the decline, along with the fact that this is his third team now where he has done this, where he has demanded out, it is going to be hard to believe that a team, specifically a contending team, would be willing to give James Harden max money. Maybe before this incident there would have been a team or at least some negotiations, but after publicly calling his GM a liar and declaring he would not play for the 76ers, I could not imagine most teams wanting to pay Harden anywhere close to max money, knowing he has a track record of demanding out and not showing up to camp. He initially did this with the Rockets, where he showed up to training camp and looked out of shape and disinterested. He eventually got his way and was traded to the Nets. After a couple years, he of course forced his way out of Brooklyn to Philly, and now it seems he is trying to force his way out of Philly to play for the Clippers. Teams are definitely going to notice this pattern, and at the very least be more hesitant to invest so many assets into Harden, including signing him to a long-term deal. And if Harden does truly sit out, he would be tanking his own value. That is not to even mention the clause in the CBA that states that if a player is on an expiring contract and they refuse to play for that team, they have the right to void that contract, and that player, which would be James Harden, is not allowed to sign or play professional basketball until he fulfills that contract. So he's not allowed to play on any other team, and that includes even overseas leagues. This is not the Ben Simmons rule people have been talking about. This is a clause that has been in the CBA for a while now. The difference between the Ben Simmons situation is that James Harden is on an expiring deal, while Ben Simmons still had, I believe, 4 years left on his contract. Would it ultimately get to that point, however? Who really knows? The smart thing to do from the 76ers perspective would probably be to wipe their hands clean of the drama and let him go if he did hold out. But I could see a scenario where the 76ers and Daryl Morey could be petty and basically hold on to Harden until he fulfills his contract. There are very few scenarios where Harden wins here, and his best bet may be to play out this season, try to compete for a championship, and if he plays at a high level, maybe a team will be willing to give him a 3 or 4 year deal worth a lot of money next offseason, or maybe a better trade scenario appears closer to trade deadline and he is able to be traded and re-signed by whichever team trades for him. The main point being, however, though, that James Harden holding out just doesn't make a ton of sense, and I don't think it will ultimately lead to him getting the contract nor the destination he wants, and is just making the situation even worse for himself and the 76ers as a whole. As for the 76ers, this also feels like a lose-lose scenario. We have historically seen the way James Harden acts when he is on a team he does not want to be on. We saw it in Houston when he came to camp out of shape. We saw it in Brooklyn towards the end, especially when it came to the effort factor on the court. And who's to say Harden does not do the same on the court for Philly, even if he did play? One would have to ask the question, does having a disinterested Harden, who likely isn't going to give you a full 100%, really make you close to a contender? The answer to that is, of course, a no, even if someone like Tyrese Maxey were to take a huge step forward this year. So as much as it sucks for the 76ers, they may be backed into a corner, and it might be beneficial for them to trade him for at least something, whether it is Norman Powell and a couple other role players from the Clippers, or just anything in general. I get trying to get the best package for Harden, and I still think they should do their due diligence on trying to get the best package, but there will come a point where they have to make a decision sooner than later, and that might mean having to wipe their hands clean of the James Harden fiasco, even if it means giving him what he wants to an extent. We all know the 76ers are under a lot of pressure to win now, especially with Joel Embiid turning 30 this upcoming season, and he has mentioned the possibility of leaving if it means competing for an NBA championship. He has made it clear his biggest goal is to win an NBA title, and if the 76ers do not quickly build a real contender around him, it is very possible we could see real rumors of Embiid wanting out of Philly as soon as next year, especially if the 76ers try to use this year as a bridge year, which in turn is just wasting a year of Joel Embiid's prime, which I can't imagine he would be too thrilled with. That's why I see this as a very tough situation for Philly. It is either have Harden on your team, who more than likely will not be playing at his best due to wanting out, and him just declining in general, or trade him for just average role players at best, such as Norman Powell and company, and treat this year as a gap year and hope you can bring in more talent around Joel Embiid to at least compete for real next year. Either way, like I stated before, it just feels like a scenario where both parties in James Harden and the 76ers and Daryl Morey are going to end up losing in some sort of way, and I am not so sure how this situation will be resolved in the coming weeks or possibly even months. It was even reported earlier by Ramona Shelburne that James Harden intends to make life very uncomfortable for the 76ers going into training camp, so this could very well be the beginning, and the situation could just get even crazier and just worse in general. Overall, this is just a crazy situation that I think is only going to get more and more weird the longer it drags out. I am not so sure there is a simple black and white solution to this situation, and it more than likely will continue to escalate until either James Harden is traded or something else crazy happens. Either way, let me know in the comment section below what you think of this mess of a situation. Are you Team Harden or are you Team Daryl Morey? Or do you, like many others, think this whole situation is just silly and over the top? And if you were the 76ers organization, would you trade James Harden right now? Or would you have him remain on your team? As always, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoy this type of content, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel grow, and we'll keep you up to date with our latest NBA and sports content. We appreciate the support. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great one.